Hello everyone, welcome to the Nurses Heartbeat. My name is Philip. In this episode, I am exploring a long awaiting pathway that most nurses and midwives have been waiting for. It is the new registration pathway for international nurses and midwives that want to register in Australia. So this is the latest updates and the registration pathway that has been released. It was released on 23rd of April. That is 2 days back, and this is the most updated information you can find anywhere and everywhere. So this is how it goes. There are two pathways that they have introduced. The APRA, Australian Health Board, they have introduced for international nurses. One is for nurses that were trained in what they called comparable states. So to begin with, the comparable states, we are going to look at United Kingdom, United States, that's US, Ireland, Singapore, Spain, and then British Columbia and Ontario. These are the two provinces in Canada. So these 6 comparable states are states that they have their processes similar to Australia, and they are going to allow nurses in these states or countries to come to Australia and to practice. So if you are a nurse or you are a midwife that you were trained in any of these 6 countries that I have aforementioned, then you can register in Australia and practice as a nurse or midwife in Australia. So these are the conditions that they have put for it. And then the next one is the pathway 2, that is for international nurses that were trained in other countries other than the 6 countries that I have mentioned, which I will also talk in details briefly. So the pathway 1 is if you hold a qualification in nursing or midwifery from any of these 6 countries, you have been working as a nurse or a midwife since 2017, and you have at least 1,800 hours of work. Now, 1,800 hours is like working full time for 1 year. Basically, that is what it means. So if you've been working for this 1,800 hours since 2017, then you qualify for the pathway 1, and you can register in Australia to practice as a nurse or a midwife in Australia. The second one is for the international nurses, the pathway 2. So for instance, if you were educated or you were trained in India, in Nigeria, in Ghana, in any other country other than these 6 comparable countries that I talked about, and then after training, you have also been registered in any of the 6 countries that I mentioned. If you have a nursing or midwifery registration in these countries and you completed your qualification in your original country since 2017 for this pathway 2, if you had your training or you graduated since 2017 in any country in the world, and you have a registration in any of the 6 countries that I have mentioned, as a nurse or midwife, you hold your PIN, then you can also qualify for the pathway 2. So the requirement is that you have been qualified in any country since 1st January 2017, and then you have a PIN or you have a registration in 6 of the comparable states. It means that you have gone through their examination process, their requirement process. So here in the UK, if you want to be registered as a nurse, if you are international qualified nurse, then you have to write their OSCE, the Objective Structured Clinical Exams, that is the OSCE. You also have to get your English language requirements, either you are doing the IELTS or the OET, and then you come to the UK, and you also have to write the CBT, the computer-based exams, the aptitude test. So these requirements you must meet before you get a qualification in the UK and in most of the countries as well. If you are being registered in the US, then you might have also written your NCLEX. So these 6 countries, they all have their standard, the examination requirements that you have to pursue before you are also registered there. So once you have gone through that process and you have been registered in any of the 6 countries, and you qualified in since 2017 from your original country, then you can also qualify for the pathway to register as a nurse in Australia. Now, what are the other requirements that you will need aside these standard that I have mentioned? The general requirement is that, one, you must have a criminal history check. So what we call the police report or police check. Um, so if you are internationally educated nurse and you are registered in UK, US, Ireland, Singapore, Australia, British Columbia, Ontario, and then you want to have the registration, you are going to do a criminal check. Now for the Australia board criminal check, they have an independent agencies that they do this check on their behalf. So we have agencies like Fit to Work and any other agency. There are quite a couple of them. So you apply for criminal check and then you pay the fee for those agencies and they will do the check on your behalf. What you will need in the criminal check is any country that you have stayed in for more than 6 consecutive months since you turn 18 years. You are going to do a criminal check there. So if you were trained in India or in Nigeria or in Ghana, means you might have stayed in those countries for quite a long time since you turned 18 years. So you go and have the criminal check in that country and where you are currently practicing. So let's say me, for instance, if I want to do the criminal check, I am going to have a check for Ghana because I was trained in Ghana and then I stayed in Ghana for a lot of years. So I meet the 6 months period they are talking about. So I'll have a criminal check in Ghana and I'll have a criminal check in the UK. So this one agency will do the checks for both countries. You only apply and then you fill in your details and you pay the fee to them. When you pay the fee to them, they will give you a reference number that you quote when you are doing the application for the registration in the nursing board, while the check department also run their checks for you. When they finish with the criminal check, they will send the report directly to the Australia board for the nurses and for the midwives. So the criminal check is one of the requirements that you need. And then continuing professional development, the CPD, nursing and midwifery is a clinical procedure. You need your skills, it has to be updated. So we've been doing the CPD, whether it is e-learning, whether it is workshop that you've been attending to have this continual the CPD done, continuing professional development. Then you should have something to show that you've been doing these CPD courses, you've been updating yourself professionally, and then you are fit to work. So you will need that. And then the third requirement is your English language skills. So I believe that if you are registered in the UK as an international nurse, you have already had your English exams done, whether you did IELTS or OET or any other English. It is the same standard that they have set for this Australian board. So if you are using the IELTS, then now they are taking the requirement just like the UK requirement. So you need 7 in any of the three requirements. So reading, speaking, listening, you should have band 7, and then in writing, you should have band 6.5. This is the same requirement for UK, and yeah, that is what they also need for the English language. If you did OET, then you have to get B in reading, listening, and then speaking, and you should have C in writing. So that is the English language requirement. So those of you nurses and midwives that are registered in the UK, your English requirement is the same thing that they will consider over there. And then what they need is that whether it is current or it is expired, you can still use it. If it is current, that is fine. If it is expired, once you can prove that you have been working continuously as a nurse or midwife since the expiry of your English exams, you have been working in an English dominated area where you've been writing and speaking and interacting with people or with patients in English, then you still qualify. So you can still use your expired English testing results to apply for the English requirement. And then the next thing that they need is recency of practice. So recency of practice is basically means that you should prove that you've worked for at least 450 hours. Yeah, and you are working recently. That is basically. So when you go in to do the application, they will ask you, how can you confirm you worked for 450 hours recently? Then you take. And then one of the ways that in the supporting documents you can prove that you've been working for that is that you can add your contract, employment contract. It will state the date you started working and the hours you are working. So it will show them you've been working for that period. That should be fine. And then they have the last one is the professional indemnity insurance arrangement. This one, if you are registered by the Nursing and Midwifery Council, NMC, you can request from the NMC. When you go to their online portal, you can request for indemnity arrangement request, and then you will have it. So these are the things that you need to apply for the exams and for the registration, and whether you were trained in the UK or you were trained overseas and you've had a registration in UK or any of the other 5 countries I have talked about, then you need this requirement as well, and then it will take you there. So it is the same requirement you need for pathway 1 and pathway 2, and then you get your registration as a nurse or a midwife in Australia. They have streamlined the process. This means that initially you could spend 6 months to 1 year if you want to have a registration as a nurse or midwife in Australia, but now they said the period is 1 to 6 months. So depending on the complexity of your situation, and then when you do the application, you are going to add your supporting documents. So if you supply all the document they need and there is a reduced need for bring this additional document, bring that additional document, then it means that you are going to have your registration in a few months. But they say that the maximum number of months it will take for you to complete the registration process is 6 months. So it is a shorter period that they have given, unlike the previous that you had to do a lot of things. And one of the brilliant reasons why they did this new streamlined pathway is also to remove examination requirement. So at first, if you are going to Australia to register as a nurse, just as we came to the UK and US and all other countries, you have to do exams requirement. Now that you have your qualification in any of these 6 countries comparable countries, they will remove examination requirement. You don't have to do any clinical exams or any other exams in Australia. And the second reason why they have brought this streamlined process is also to remove qualification upgrade. So they didn't emphasize on any qualification in this new one. They only say if you are a registered nurse or midwife in any of these 6 countries, you qualify to be registered in Australia as well. So to prevent what initially was happening, that if you want to work and you hold this qualification, you need to upgrade to this level and to that level, they want to remove that as well um, from it. So these are the 2 reasons that they gave as to why they have streamlined the process. And the third is to make it a short process, a simplified process that you can easily get your registration and apply and get to Australia in time. What if you don't meet any of these pathway? That is, one, you didn't have your qualification in any of these 6 comparable countries, or two, um, you completed your, even though you are international nurses, you completed maybe 2010, 2008, because they brought that clause that you should have had your qualification since 1st January 2017. So they said if you check and then you don't meet any of the pathways, then you could use the old system. They still use the old system of registration, whether you are registering directly from them, where you will have to write their clinical skills and other requirements, or you can register through the New Zealand route. Yeah, so the old system of registration is there, but this new streamlined process, you must meet the pathway for whether you qualify for pathway 1 or pathway 2 to register. What I will also advise is that if your situation is not very clear to you, they have their contacts on their portal that you can ring them and explain your circumstance, your situation to them, and they will be able to advise you whether you can go ahead to apply for any of the pathways. One of the things that I also realized you could do for pathway 1 is that if you have completed school as an international nurse or midwife so many years ago, and then if you have top up in any of the states in UK, in US, in Canada, or in any of the states, you have done a top up that is directly related to the field you are practicing. So if you've done a top up in nursing or in midwifery, then you can also add that to it, and then you can still qualify for pathway 1, and then you get registered. So if it's the news that has come, I know many people, nurses and midwives, are looking for this opportunity to move to the Australia. There are good reasons to go to Australia. Australian weather is quite warm. So people that are living in Asia, in Africa, that you have a warm environment and you want to have a similar suit, then you can go to Australia. Australia also offers a very good pay. Even though cost of living is quite high, their salary is very high as well. And then you are going to get a lot of money in Australia. And yeah, basically this and many other things that you can search for yourself, but many people are enthusiastic in this pathway and they are looking forward for it. If you have any questions or any comments, you can send in the comment section, and then I'll be able to answer you. If you need any further clarity, also you can go to the Australian Board of Nursing, their website, and they have all this information I have shared with you available there. You can download it and then read it in your own convenient time. My name is Philip once again. Like, share, and then subscribe to this channel and hit the notification button as I'll bring you more next time. Thank you. Remember, every heartbeat matters. Bye.